to Roots. Today, having a chat with Matt, we have Warren Attwell. Warren, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
No worries. You were recording a couple of songs for us downstairs. What was your original track today?
It was a song of mine that I wrote with the wonderful Ryan McMullen called Picture of Perfect.
Oh, that is a beautiful tune. What was the cover you did though? Because this is the big question.
I did Missing You by John Waite. It's like an 80s classic.
That is a banger, my friend.
Yeah, one of my favourites.
It is pretty good. But I mean, I have to get into this with you. Being a man who's follically challenged myself, can I ask you about your hair care routine? Because you do have the most fantastic just mop of hair, and I'm very jealous.
Well, I'm still trying to get the hair care thing down at the minute. I'm trying like a bunch of different shampoos because this is like the first time in like 15 years that I've had long hair, really long hair. So I'm trying a bunch of different shampoos. I've got some like anti-frizz oils that I put in.
Yeah.
Got some hair heat protectant stuff that I use.
Do you do the whole straightening thing, or do you just let it? Oh,
I'm just lucky that my hair is pretty naturally straight.
You have a very different persona than when I would have met you around about 2011, 2012 when your first EP dropped, and I mean you had like razor short hair, clean shaven. Has this been a conscious change, or is it just the more authentic and more comfortable Warren Attwell?
I would say it's probably, I mean, both were just different versions of me, and this is just a different evolution of me, I suppose. I've always wanted to have long hair and actually enjoy having long hair.
Sure.
And I probably at some point will grow the beard out too, like have one of those really bushy, like Game of Thrones beards.
Yeah, but, you're like a better looking Chris Christopherson, you know, like a young Chris Christopherson.
I'll
Some
take
people
that.
have said it.
I'll take that. I've shown a picture of Chris Christopherson to my hairdresser every now and again, so that's very flattering. That's a nice compliment.
We were talking there about you're writing with Ryan McMullen. You collaborate quite a bit. Is that where you're living at the moment? Are you sort of writing songs with multiple people, or what's going on with you?
I did a lot of co-writing for maybe 3 or 4 years. At the minute, I'm sitting on a big bank of like back catalogue songs.
Wow.
And I had been writing towards a first album, which is in production at the moment. For that first album, I wrote a total of 80 songs, which I narrowed down to 12. And I've actually got a bank of like 50 sitting at the minute for the second album, even though I haven't finished the first. The second album's already kind of underway too. So yeah, at the minute I'm kind of trying to write a little bit more on my own, just to try and get that more authentic side out of myself. Because it can be really difficult sometimes sitting down and co-writes where you have 3 or 4 hours to write about something. While you can tap into that really authentic side of yourself, there's always something else where you're having to make a compromise to please all the parties involved. So sometimes it can be nice just to sit down and write on your own, I find personally.
Yeah, I mean, do you find any pressure to, you know, when you get a song like It's Not Love, which you got a lot of airplay with, do you find yourself falling into this kind of mindset of like, oh, I need to write that song again, or I need to write in that style again, or are you just taking it as it comes and enjoying the ride?
Yeah, I find I have to take it as it comes. I mean, there are certain little things that I might do in the writing process, like It's Not Love was pretty heavy in repetition, and I think that's why it kind of latched on. And I mean, that's something that I'll use in quite a lot of my songs. I'll find those nice little tags or nice little hooks and just keep repeating them over and over again, because the more I can get them embedded in people's ears, then the better. But yeah, I don't know. I don't find that I can really sit down with any real intention of trying to come out with something specific.
Sure.
If I do that, I won't come out with anything at the end. So I've kind of just got to, I try just to connect with myself in the moment of what I'm feeling and the emotions that are running around my head or the thoughts that are running around my head. And I generally just try and let the song write itself.
Yeah.
As much as I can get out of the way as possible, that's the best way of working, I've found.
Sounds good. It sounds almost like, in terms of like almost therapy. Songwriting is a therapy method.
Absolutely.
You know. I'm a big fan of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. If I wasn't a songwriter, I would have a huge therapist bill, guaranteed.
See, we got to get this thing where we just write do a songwriting camp where we actually get people to just put their feelings on a page, and then I'm pretty sure these would be the most relatable tracks.
That'd be a pretty emotional event, I would say. Weekend or week or whatever it would be. A songwriting camp.
The ambulance is on standby, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Therapists on standby. Therapists on speed dial.
That's it. But as a very multi-talented guy, I mean, you're not just a singer and a songwriter and a collaborator. I mean, you've got this whole YouTube series where you go into deep dives about topics. You talk to your friends about one topic or other, and you're putting out quite a lot of those for a while there. Is that the same sort of thing? Is that sort of like, talking therapy, or just trying to understand things?
Yeah, it's kind of a talking therapy, I suppose. I mean, I did a couple of different series. I did a series called Down the Rabbit Hole for a while, where I talked about a lot of different personal things that I would think about or face in my own life. And I guess that was really, it was a form of talking therapy in a way where I was just talking to myself. It was almost like video journaling, I guess, but I was posting the video journals on YouTube. And really the only reason that I did that was, one, for my own mental sanity and clarity, because I started it during like the lockdown period of COVID, the first lockdown. I did it for my own mental clarity and just to get out of my own head. And I guess the me and all my friends podcast that I was doing with a bunch of my songwriting buddies, it was kind of the same thing. Like, I wanted to really tap into the struggles that artists and creators go through. And the title of it was actually inspired from the John Mayer lyric, "Me and all my friends were all misunderstood. They say we stand for nothing, but there's no way we ever could."
Oh yeah.
And I think it was just to try and get behind those misconceptions that people have of what songwriters actually do, or how they think, or what artists do, or how they think and feel. And the reality is that we're all kind of the same, I think. And artists and songwriters just put the pen to paper to get it out of their systems.
Yeah, it's a good way forward. But you've branched out into all sorts of things, and even collaborations with dance acts and that sort of stuff. The remixes that you got into. How did you come across those people, or how did you navigate into those? Because I've seen your Spotify listen numbers are pretty healthy. That stuff seems to be good fun too.
Yeah, that was a strange coincidence in ways. I started another YouTube series years ago called One Take Wednesday, where I would just sit and play a cover song every week that people would request most of the time. One of the dance producers from Germany actually came across one of the covers that I had done during that series 3 or 4 years later, after I had actually done it. And he got in touch, said he wanted to create a new up-to-date EDM version of this particular song, which was Over My Shoulder by Mike and the Mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
And he got in touch and he said, "We'd love you to do the vocals on it." And he's just kept throwing me songs ever since, and we just keep working together ever since. So yeah, it was a happy coincidence. It wasn't something that I ever planned for. It just happened.
Yeah, it feels like it was the sort of, it's not your home style, it's not your primary thing, but it just shows that you can turn your hand to pretty much anything. I am incredibly jealous of your vocal range, and of course, just that tone of your voice is lovely.
You're very kind.
And your hair, but that's a whole other podcast.
I'll recommend the shampoo to you after we finish the interview.
In terms of, if people want to get more Warren Attwell, where do they go?
I guess the best place to go is just warrenatwell.com. Find all my social media stuff on there. My Instagram, just search Warren Attwell anywhere, I guess. You'll find it pretty easy.
Sure thing. Well, that's cool. Thank you so much for coming in, for having a chat with Matt.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Matt.
I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Likewise.